This week on Adventist News Network, praise for Adventist Health Ministries from the U.S. Surgeon General.
A new future for Thailand's refugee community.
And support for Adventist fundraising projects.
These stories and more coming up.
This is Adventist News Network, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thank you for joining us this week.
First in the news, the United States Surgeon General says Adventists are doing a commendable job of focusing on holistic health. Surgeon General Regina Benjamin spoke this week at an Adventist Health Summit in the U.S. state of Florida. Benjamin told hundreds of Adventist health professionals, health ministry leaders, and pastors that she was impressed by what she called the church's innovative thinking when it comes to health. Church members in North America logged 2 million collective miles of physical activity last year with the region's In Step for Life program. Adventists also started more than 100 community gardens and farmers markets. Adventist Health Ministries Director for North America, Katja Reinhardt, says the church is committed to increasing physical activity and widening access to affordable, healthy foods in the U.S. The denomination has joined dozens of other faith and community organizations to support U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative to curb childhood obesity.
A refugee couple in Thailand opened a hair salon in their home recently, thanks to a vocational training project by the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. The humanitarian arm of the church in Thailand is offering classes in sewing, welding, auto repair, child care, cooking, and hairstyling to a community of refugees from Myanmar. ADRA is also partnering with the Thai Vocational College to support refugees who want further training. ADRA officials say the new skills allow marginalized groups to become financially stable and integrate into Thai society.
Some Adventists in the U.S. city of Loma Linda, California, are speaking out against news that the fast food chain McDonald's is coming to town. They say exposing the city to fast food is harmful to its largely health-conscious population. Loma Linda is one of the world's 4 blue zones, or regions where people regularly live healthy lives into their 90s and beyond. Author Dan Buettner, who coined the term blue zones, wrote about the Adventist community in Loma Linda for National Geographic magazine in 2005. While the Loma Linda City Council recently voted to approve the McDonald's as part of a larger city development project, residents against the chain aren't giving up. They want the city to guarantee that healthy restaurants will outnumber fast food chains.
Adventist students in Ghana are worried that a new school schedule will interfere with Sabbath worship. Their country's education ministry is increasing the school week from 5 to 6 days, and schools are expected to decide whether that extra day falls on Saturday or Sunday. Director of Education for the church in Ghana, Peter Yaw Frempah, says the church will oppose the new measures. The government says the longer school week is meant to help raise flagging test scores in the country.
The church's first countrywide missionary convention in Myanmar drew more than 100 missionaries to the city of Yangon recently. They met to discuss trends in mission and how to best reach parts of the country with little or no Adventist presence. Missionaries who attended say they gained a better understanding of the unique mission work of the denomination both in Myanmar and worldwide. The church in Myanmar launched its missionary program in 2006 to support the country's fledgling missionary work there.
Here's a familiar scenario. A local church decides to build a fellowship hall, but begins construction without sufficient funds. Church leaders might tell themselves that the money will come once they get started. Sometimes it does, but more often than not, churches are left with more debt than they can handle. The church's philanthropic service for institutions is hoping to change that. Their new handbook on fundraising is geared toward local pastors and lay leaders. It offers advice on advanced planning and structuring a capital campaign from a Christian stewardship perspective. I sat down with Lilia Wagner earlier today to learn more. Thank you, Lilia, for being with us. Tell us why you and your team decided that it was time to create a fundraising handbook for Adventists?
We began to get calls increasingly from pastors, from lay leaders in churches, from teachers, principals who wanted to improve their school, and we wanted to serve them too. We had the materials, but I wanted to customize it so that they could get double dose of both our help as well as something written that can stay with them, and that's how the project grew.
Now let's talk about the balance between putting a project in God's hands and making sound financial decisions. How would you advise a congregation who doesn't plan ahead because they're planning on God to take care of the project?
Well, there are some realities in today's environment and economic circumstances. Some of the problems that I've seen in organizations that have contacted us is there's no timeline, there's no process for doing it. The campaign goes on forever. People get tired of it. They wonder what has happened to their money. So there has to be a process that we know works today. Now, we can also count on the Lord's help, but sometimes we paint him into a corner by not doing our part.
Wise advice. Now, your handbook is available through Advent Source, but you also have additional support for local pastors and lay leaders. How can they access that support?
Absolutely. Any North America Division organization can contact Philanthropic Service for Institutions. There is a website, philanthropicservice.com, and they can call us, and we're happy to help them, whether it's more materials, more advice, even a site visit, referral to local resources. And we certainly want to encourage people to be in touch with us so that we can help them use this manual in the best way possible.
Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
When we continue listening to the deaf community in our church and how a special ministry is providing resources for that community, up next.
Welcome back. Here's Sandra Blackmer with a preview of this week's edition of Adventist World.
In the February issue of Adventist World, General Conference Stewardship Associate Director Larry Evans shares an insightful personal experience. He tells of the time he preached a Sabbath worship message to a group of church members attending a large regional gathering in Brazil. In closing his sermon, Evans invited the group to stand together and hold hands for prayer. Nothing unusual about that, except in this case, he said, he was inadvertently exhibiting insensitivity toward the people before him, who were deaf. "We don't hold hands," one person gently explained to him, "because we use them to pray. Instead, we sometimes touch one another's feet as a symbol of unity while one person uses their hands to pray and the rest of us look on." Fortunately, Evans said, he hadn't asked them to bow their heads and close their eyes. Together with his stewardship responsibilities, Evans is the World Church Liaison to International Deaf Ministries. Estimates for the number of deaf worldwide range from 93 to more than 300 million, but only 2% are Christian. For more than 2 decades, Evans gradually has been learning about this unique culture, whose feelings of isolation, exclusion, and aloneness while living in a hearing world, he says, often go unnoticed. Don't miss reading this challenging piece that not only provides insight into the world of the deaf, but also lays out an effective model of reaching those in the deaf culture with the gospel message. In this issue, you'll also enjoy reading An Unusual Partnership, which explores the challenges and the growth of Adventist education in China. And don't miss Raul Corriga's article, The Delight of the Sabbath, from which you'll gain a fuller understanding of the blessings that come from our weekly day of rest. So enjoy reading the February Adventist World, which shares how the Holy Spirit is blessing God's church in your own backyard and around the world.
Rick Kajira recently visited a Global Mission Church plant in Mongolia. He has this report.
I'd like to show you this hat. It's from the country of Mongolia. Several years ago I had an opportunity to visit there, and on Sabbath morning we went to the main church in Mongolia. And it was like a lot of other churches. It had pews, it even had a balcony. But then we went out and we visited some of the church plants, the new churches that are being started in Ulaanbaatar. And one of them was in an old house, somebody's house that they had bought and they were converting into a church. And another was in like a high-rise business complex where they had a wide area where they were meeting, a room, an upper room. But my favorite was one where they were meeting in a Mongolian ger. Now, a Mongolian ger, I think in other parts of the world they may call it a yurt, but it's a round sort of tent with wooden support structures inside. And when I was there, it was February, and if you know anything about Mongolia, it has the coldest average temperature of any country in the world, and February happens to be the coldest month. But we were there, and I remember walking in the door of that ger and just feeling the warmth, both of the room and of the people. They had a nice warm wood stove right in the center, and everybody was sitting around it. But I can still remember looking and seeing the people studying their Bibles and the children studying their Sabbath school lessons. And I thought, isn't it wonderful that we belong to a church that is reaching out to other people and starting new congregations. So thank you to all of you who are supporting global mission work.
Now let's turn to Megan Browner for this week's Adventist social media highlights.
This week in social media, we asked you to tell us what you wish people would say about Adventists. Twitter user Camille hopes the first thing people say is that Adventists are true Bible keepers. On P agrees, saying Adventists should be known as people of the Word. Growing in God Now wishes people would say that Adventists make it easy to see a God who loves me, and I should get to know their God. Codaline 11 hopes people see Adventists as world changers, and Angela Ansonalt added that she hopes people see that we love one another. Rusty Sterling wants people to think of health when they hear the name Adventist, and Jenna Hyde hopes people say we are the nicest people ever. B Rent 239 wants people to think of an Adventist they know personally and hopefully left them with a good impression. Thanks to everyone who joined the discussion this week, and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook if you don't already.
Christians in Nigeria continue to face uncertainty as an extremist group in the country carries out attacks against churches. Here's Dwayne Leslie with an Adventist perspective on the situation.
We've gotten a recent report out of northeast Nigeria about escalating violence between Muslims and Christians. Specifically, the extremist sect Boko Haram has been engaged in a series of attacks against Christian churches in the region. This, however, has been condemned by Nigerian Muslim leaders as not being representative of Islam principles. A report from the Northeast Nigeria Conference president says that Adventist churches have not suffered any physical damage or loss of life. However, these activities have led to a significant drop in church attendance as many members are concerned for their safety. This is a prime example of how the lack of religious freedom can impact churches. We must continue to be active proponents of religious freedom, not only for evangelism purposes, but to protect our members there. I'd encourage the viewers to pray for our Christian brothers and sisters in Nigeria and pray for a quick end to this violence.
Recently, I was reading in The Great Hope, and there's a favorite statement that I can't seemingly get enough of. And it goes like this: the spirit of liberty went with the Bible. Wherever the gospel was received, the minds of the people were awakened. They began to cast off the shackles that had held them bond slaves to ignorance, vice, and superstition. That statement is as true today as it was the day it was written. Once our minds are expanded, they can never return to their original dimensions. That's a quote of Oliver Wendell Holmes. The Bible does that. The Bible expands our minds. It brings us into the presence of God.
Many Adventist churches and schools will hold weeks of prayer in the coming months. Jonathan Tahel talks about prayer resources offered by the church's youth ministries.
One of our pioneers in the youth department, Luther Warren, once said, to have a good spiritual life, we need at least 3 things. The first thing is daily prayer. Second thing is to daily study and read the Word of God. And the third thing, daily to work for others. We have in the youth department a special program that we think is the best program that we have for our youth. It's a special program that we have it in a week. It's the week of prayer. It's a week when we can go to church, we can invite our friends, and we can share with them and listen to somebody talking about Jesus. It's going to be a special week about prayer. And I can tell you, if you haven't experienced that yet, try to find out near your house, local church, when it's going to happen, because you will enjoy a special week of prayer for yourself, for your family, and for others. We have materials in the youth department that we can share and we want to share with you. We have a special magazine, Accent, that produce every year a special week of prayer. If you want to read, just to read for you, good information, good lessons that we talk about Jesus and how to relate with Him, go to our website and you will find special materials.
Hope Channel programming is now available in Arabic, Farsi, and Turkish. Chun Min Chung reports on the Adventist Television Network's growth in the Middle East and North Africa.
Many people in Middle East and North Africa have a desire to know more about Jesus Christ and the Gospel through Al-Wad TV and radio programs. Al-Wad approaches people through the satellite TV, mobile phone, website, podcast, as well as social network services. Every day we receive more feedback from our viewers who come from different religious backgrounds. We'll produce not only Arabic but also Farsi and Turkish under the Greater Middle East Union. Please pray for us and support this ministry.
ماما أنا بعتذر منك. أنا كتير بعتذر منك لأنه عملت هالشغلة. لكن أنا بدي أكون صادق معك ماما لأني بحبك. فيك تسامحيني شي؟ فيك؟ أنت شخص رائع يا أندرو. هل تعتقد إنه أمي ممكن تتصرف بنفس الطريقة معي؟ كم شباك كسرت؟ بس 2. ما تخاف، كل شي رح يكون منيح. بس تشوف أمك قرب صوبها واحضنها بدون ما تقول أي كلمة، وهي رح تهدى بسرعة. شكرا يا صديقي على نصيحتك الممتازة.
The church's ministry magazine is going digital this year, and the department wants readers to help shape its new programming. Derek Morris explains how you can help.
Ministry magazine goes to about 80,000 leaders around the world, and we're excited to hear from people the ways that the messages in that journal are impacting lives. But in 2012, we're moving things to a whole new level as ministry goes digital with a new program called Ministry in Motion. Ministry in Motion will air on DirecTV channel 368. It will be a half-hour program, and it will deal with practical issues for ministry. both for pastors and lay leaders. And we're excited because we believe that there are many lay people and pastors who want to be used by God to make a difference in the world. So what we'd like to do is get some feedback from you as viewers. What are some issues that you'd like to discuss? What are some practical pointers you'd like to receive from ministry? You can write to us at feedback@ministrymagazine.org. I'll give you that address again in just a moment. But I believe that as we work together, that God is going to use us to impact the whole world. So if you've got some ideas, what would be some good topics for our new program, Ministry in Motion, write to us at feedback@ministrymagazine.org. And then let's just work together with Jesus as our leader to share the good news about Jesus and His soon coming, and to see God gather that harvest so that we can all go home to be with Jesus.
When we come back, the results of our iShare video camera giveaway.
All I could see was my husband's body just sinking to the bottom. That day, I will never forget. And that prayer was the hardest prayer I've ever said in my life.
Welcome back. Let's find out from Sergio Gonzalez who our iShare video camera winners are.
Welcome to iShare, where you bring us the news. Today's the big day, the day our iShare reporters have been waiting for. Today we're drawing 3 names as the winners of our video camera giveaway. Also, if you sent us iShare reports in the last month, we've added your name twice to the drawing. If I pick your name, we'll be contacting you in the next couple of weeks with further details. So, on to our lucky winners. Our first winner is Julene Barrington. Our second winner, Kevin Kadipo. And our final winner is Melanie Barber. Congratulations to our winners. We're looking forward to featuring your great stories soon here on iShare.
What does KidsView have in store? We asked Walona Kiramabadi for a preview of the March edition.
We're busy this month putting our almost spring edition of KidsView together. So for the month of March, you can look forward to an exciting story about going face to face with a bear in the woods. If you want to try an easy and fun craft, we'll teach you how to make an inchworm out of construction paper. And as always, we've got great stories about missions and Adventist heritage, as well as our fun and kid-focused calendar. You can learn more about KidsView and read previous web editions by going to www.kidsviewmag.org.
Now let's turn to Benjamin Baker for a look at Adventist history. This week, the Church's first statement on creation.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. During This Week in 1932, then General Conference President Charles H. Watson traveled to Europe in an attempt to contain the fallout from the defection of L.R. Conradi to the Seventh-day Baptists. Conradi was Adventism's premier leader and evangelist in Europe for almost half a century, imprisoned for proselytizing, wearied by wars, but ultimately accomplishing more than any other individual to expand the Adventist work on the continent. Ellen White declaring, in fact, that he did the work of several men. However, Conradi drifted away from his belief in the distinctive doctrines of Adventism, first airing his doubts privately, then publicly. C.H. Watson was only partially successful in his allaying efforts in 1932, for Conradi was effective in drawing out Adventists more loyal to him than the message. On January 30, 1976, General Conference administrators set out to develop a statement on the question of Creation Week and the age of the world. Up to that point, the Church had no official statement on creation in the Earth's age. This 1976 resolution was the genesis of the process that generated what today is fundamental belief number 6 on creation. And that was This Week in Adventism.
Thank you for watching Adventist News Network. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
And if you don't already, check out our app. Now you can watch ANN videos on your iPhone or Android device, as well as access to all the latest news, commentaries, and photos.
As always, you can visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next week, God bless.